Alright, what's going on everyone, it's BRT here, and today I've got another tutorial, and this is about controls in ARMA 2 to serve you better in DayZ and even Wasteland. Now ARMA 2 has many controls which you're not going to be using in DayZ or Wasteland too much, so you can rebind certain keys near your left hand to serve you better at keeping keys closer to your left hand so you can use them more easily. So for this I have a new player profile. I've of course already rebound the keys on my old one and I'm not going to do that again. But go to your options, and then actually the first thing you want to change is head bob to 0, because it does not really serve any purpose. Basically head bob, when you look at first person you see your head bobbing around, which is not really too useful because, well, in real life you don't really see your head bobbing like that. Your brain kind of negates that effect. So I don't really see the purpose in using it. You can use it for a little bit, but if you have it up on like middle, it kind of becomes too crazy. So I'd advise just to put that to 0, but you can change it to whatever you want to make it feel a bit more realistic, but I would not advise it. Anyways, the main thing is going to be the controls. Now the first thing you want to do is actually put your mouse smoothing to 0. This actually seems to make your mouse respawn worse, so I'd advise putting that on 0. Then I have a bunch of keys which I'm going to rebind. Of course you can be flexible in this, you don't really have to listen all that much to me, but these are just kind of ideas as to what you could do. So the first thing is Spacebar. Now in default ARMA's commanding mode, you're probably not going to be using this too much unless you play ARMA, but one thing to do is actually put Spacebar and any other controls which you want to find in the first option, and then scroll down, because they're going to be highlighted in red. So you can find them that way, and then you can delete them. So you can find space here, commanding mode, and then just delete that key. Now what I like to use space for is running. Default running is, and by that I mean sprinting. Default is double tap W, which is actually pretty difficult to activate, because if you're in the heat of situation you actually have to stop to press W twice, so rebinding this to another key is a good idea actually. So you can find it this way, it's right here, so you want to rebind that to space. In my opinion that's a good key to rebind it to, it's close to your thumb and you can easily access it, and running or sprinting is a good idea. And here's what you then want to do is delete the first two keys because you don't want them there anymore. I'm basically just using move forward and then selecting two keys to find the keys and then change them, because you can't search the keys on your own. You can only select certain control types. So this is a good way of finding them because they will be highlighted in red. Then the second thing I like to do is actually rebind my space key to looking around as well, so whenever I'm sprinting I can just look around, because pressing Alt and space at the same time is kinda difficult. So just type in Alt here and you can see look, scroll down towards Alt, and then just press space as well. Then your space keys are going to be bound to sprinting as well as looking around, so this means whenever you press space, you're going to run in a straight line and have the ability to look around. I like this, you may not, so you don't necessarily have to do this. But it's an idea, of course. Then, by default, your Windows key is not going to be assigned to anything. A good idea is to put your compass key on this, because actually, when you're playing with a squad and you use your compass, it's good for reference. So, what you want to do is you want to find your compass key, so K by default. Then just scroll down to your compass and assign that to your Windows key. Of course you can choose another key if you're liking. It's actually a good idea to put this on one of your mouse keys if you have that, but left Windows key can suffice as well. Then control by default is not really used in DayZ, so what I like to do with control is actually use my map for it. Type both left control and M in there, and then find left control in your settings. Now by default it's switch command menu, you're not going to use that, so just delete that. Then go to your map, which is right here, and then just for both of those use control. So just make sure for whichever key you're going to rebind to map, you use that for map as well as hide map. Then one thing I like to do, by default your caps lock is using push to talk for any channel, but I only use direct chat in DayZ. So what I like to do actually, and I will show this, You put it there, you go down to your caps lock. Now push to talk is by default. I like to put that on talk on direct channel. This means whenever you use caps lock, it's automatically going to be on direct chat, so you don't accidentally talk inside anymore. Obviously this is up to preference because you're not going to be able to use vehicle channel anymore, but I never use vehicle channel anyways, so there's really no point for me. But this is just one thing to think about. Then obviously you're going to delete push to talk. Then the last key I like to change in DayZ is tab. I like to bind this to binoculars because your binoculars key is very close to your vault key, so chances are you're gonna accidentally press V and vault instead of pulling out your binoculars, and you don't really want that. So tab and B. Find your tab key first and delete that. Right, tab by default is next target, which you're not going to be using, so just delete that and then find your B key, binoculars, and then assign that to your tab key. Now these are some controls which kind of make it easier to play DayZ. Another thing you can think about is switching out your ADS key from your zoom key so you can stay on target more easily and ADS separately. This mostly only works when you have a mouse with macro keys, but it's a thing to think about as well. So to do that, obviously delete these two first, and then just look for second mouse key. This is going to be optics, that's going to be ADS, and then hold your mouse key is going to be that. You can reassign that to one of your mouse macro keys. I would advise so, but it's kind of difficult to get used to if you're really used to the ARMA controls, so you don't necessarily have to change it. But again, this is all up to preference. I like to reassign some of the keys because you don't really use a lot of the keys that are near your left hand. So it is just a little tutorial of showing you some keys you can reassign. It's obviously a good idea to put the keys to your own preference. And definitely make sure that you're assigning all your mouse macro keys to something useful. Definitely if you have one mouse macro key left, you should put that on compass because it makes it easy for you to reference points when you're close to a squad mate. Another thing you could assign a mouse macro key to is actually switching from first to third person because it makes it easier for you to engage people at close range. And obviously a mouse macro key is going to be more easily accessible than your numpad enter key. Just another thing you could think about. But yeah, this was just one of my little tutorials. Hope you enjoyed, and I will be back with more videos.